When you don't know who you are, people will play you as if you were nothing. And see, what God wants you to understand, you cannot allow that disrespect to affect you. You can no longer put yourself in situations in which you're being amongst people, places, and things that don't see the same vision that God gave you. God doesn't want you to allow that disrespect to derail you. God doesn't want you to allow that portrayal to get the best of you, because that betrayal and that deception that you was faced with, those things that you have done, those things that you went through, God wants you to know that it did not go unseen. No, no, no. He wants you to understand that if you cast your burdens onto him, if you cast everything over to me, I will strengthen you, I will increase you, I will not enable you, but I will cause tables to be turned. I will do a new thing. I will strengthen you where you were weak. I will prosper you so you can be strong. And I will show you the table that I prepared before you in the presence of your enemies. Because no more will I allow disrespect to affect you. Because what God wants you to understand, that disrespect is what's going to take you to that next level. If you allow yourself to continuously be disrespected, guess what? You're going to stay in that low place. But God wants you to learn from that disrespect, because there's a lot of people who throw dirt on your name. Because God says, let me tell you what God says in his Bible. And God says in the book of Psalms 35, he says, let their way be dark and slippery. In verse 6, he says, let their way be dark and slippery, and let the angel of the Lord pursue them. For without cause they have hidden their net for me in a pit, which they have dug without cause for my life. Verse 8, let destruction come upon him unexpectedly, and let his net that he has hidden catch himself. And to the very destruction let him fall. What God wants you to understand, there has been people, places, and things that have casted a net for you to fall. They have dug pits for you. They didn't want you to see you on high, but God sees you high. They didn't want to see you progress, but God says you will progress. Because guess what? Regardless of the dirt they throw in your name, regardless of how people have disrespected you, regardless of whether people feel as if that they're okay, that they can't do without you, what you got to understand, God wants you to know that you must do what you must do. You can't allow people, places, and things to control the narrative in which God is in control of. See, your problem is you feel as if you're in control. Your problem is if you know better, but you're not doing better. You can no longer put yourself in places, situations, and things that no longer serve you. Because God is a jealous God. He don't want nothing or anything before him. Where you lack in knowledge, God will prepare you in a vision. Let me talk about it. Where you lack in knowledge, God will prepare you with a vision. What? He will give you an idea, which is known as a vision. He will give you a sense of urgency to let go of that edge. He will give you a sense of urgency to let go of those fears. Because when God's in the process of doing a new thing, he needs you to be clear. When God's in the process of a new thing, he needs you to be whole. When God's in the process of doing a new thing, he will isolate you. He will eliminate distractions. He will eliminate fear. He will rule out any forms of doubt, all to get you back closer to him. Because that disrespect in which you carry yourself in, let's talk about it. You believing that you're less than. You're believing that you're not enough. You believing that God doesn't see you high. You believing that your enemies have more than you. You believing that you below in that low place. You believing as if you don't deserve the things and God is prepared before you. It's what's keeping you in the form of bondage. Because there's always going to be an attack to keep you in the form of bondage to limit your creativity. Let's talk about it. When God says creativity, where you can, anything that you imagine, you can achieve. All things are possible through God in prayer and endless without season. What you got to understand, you got to pray without season, because there's an attack on your mind that wants you to feel less than. You got to understand, you may have been in that low place for quite some time. You may have been in that low place for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. But do not allow the time that you have spent in that low place dictate the destination which God has to take for you. Because God needs you to know that he has higher for you. God needs you to know he has plans to prosper you, not harm you. God says in Isaiah 59 verse 1, he said, behold, the Lord's hand is not short that he cannot save, neither is his ear heavy that he cannot hear you. So if God is to say that he can hear you, and that means he can see you. And he wants you to know there's nothing that you're dealing with right now that he can't see you through and can't deliver you from.